Biden's sketchy business dealings. That's our top story tonight. According to reports out there, Hunter Biden was supposed to divest from a company that he was a part of, BHR, that's the name of the company, a $2.1 billion company, a lot of assets there. It's co-owned by Chinese state-controlled Bank of China. But Hunter Biden, contrary to promises made by the Biden administration and him, he's still, according to records, part of this company. So we want to ask this of the former acting national director of national intelligence, former ambassador to Germany, Ric Grenell. Mr. Grenell, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show. Glad to have you back, sir. Look, I got to ask you as director of national intelligence, how troubled are you by these reports that Hunter Biden still has a relationship with this Chinese financed corporation / bank? And then I got to also ask you, while you were DNI, did you see anything troubling about our relationship in the United States, in particular the Democrats, with communist China?
Well, first of all, Chris, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be back on Newsmax. Look, let me just say it's very troubling to see whether it's Republicans or Democrats pushing a message that somehow we shouldn't look at China or that China is not a crisis. What I can tell you is that over the last several years, the intelligence community has been watching the Chinese get very aggressive with our local politicians, whether they're mayors, congressmen, city council members, governors. They, over the last years, have really been leveraging their relationships to put pressure on American politicians. This got worse during the COVID crisis because if you remember, initially all of the protective gear was made in China. So much of what we buy is made in China. And that was really a crisis because while they were already increasing their leverage, they got even more leverage when COVID hit. And they knew that, and they played it really well. Some governors fell for it. And I think that the intelligence community has done two things. One, they've done defensive briefings where we've gone to politicians to say, hey, be careful. You are talking to Chinese spies. And two, we have also issued reports trying to educate the public, academia, politicians, just to what the extent is of the Chinese leveraging their relationships. Now, lastly, let me just finish by saying there has been a very loud message from the Democrats to look over at Russia and to avoid looking at the China relationship. I want to be clear that Russia is a problem, but China is a crisis. And right before the election, what was very troubling to me, and we still haven't gotten to the bottom of this, and most of the media are letting it go, but there was a letter issued by 50 former intelligence officials who said that the Hunter laptop story was misinformation from Russia and that we shouldn't look at the Hunter Biden laptop. That was wrong. They had no evidence to even say that. That was politics at play, and that was right before the election. And frankly, I think DOJ should investigate that. What did they know, and why did they say that? Why did they tell the American public and the American media not to pursue the Hunter Biden laptop issue when we know that that is a very serious issue?
Well, here's something else I think, and I'm right there with you. Because there's plenty of evidence out there, because we have two Bidens right now who are under investigation by the Department of Justice, two criminal investigations. And of course, you're right, CNN, MSNBC, they couldn't care less about reporting on that, and the major networks either. But let me ask you, I'm going to describe a scenario here, and I want you to correct me if anything that I'm saying is wrong, and then I'm going to ask you a question about it. According to what we have learned here on the Chris Salcedo Show and in Newsmax, that before the virus became a pandemic, the China virus became a pandemic, Xi Jinping had discovered he had human-to-human transmission in Wuhan. and he locked down his country. Travel was prohibited between Wuhan and other parts of China. Now, you would anticipate any responsible leader would do that for their country. However, Xi Jinping and his merry band of Marxists and communists over there did something else. They opened up travel from Wuhan to the rest of the world, in essence, intentionally causing the pandemic, which is claimed now, heading toward 450,000 Americans dead. Am I representing your knowledge of what the intelligence agencies are telling us, how this pandemic happened? Am I being correct in that?
You know, Chris, I'm much more comfortable to talk about what I know rather than try to confirm everything that you said. What I can tell you is that there is a intelligence community-wide statement. And first of all, to understand, when 17 intelligence agencies come together, it's very difficult to get them to agree on every single verb, every single noun, every single word. And yet they did. And in this statement, and it's still on the DNI website, and I tweeted it out actually either today or yesterday, I can't remember, but it's a very important statement because the statement makes clear from the U.S. intelligence services that COVID-19 started in China. And that's exactly what the intelligence community said and believes. And then they go on to talk about the two scenarios of how it actually developed. And so I would just point people to what the intelligence community has said publicly, not what Adam Schiff has said, not what Senator Warner has said, not what politicians say, but go to the actual intelligence community statements, and you can do that at dni.gov.
Okay.
The reason I want to point people to that is because it's a very thoughtful process.
Understood, understood. And I just want to get to the bottom of this because it is our understanding, because we've talked to several former Trump administration officials who have confirmed that China allowed travel, and I've heard the number repeated several times, 5 million people to leave the confines of Wuhan. They couldn't go to the rest of China, but they were permitted to go to the rest of the world. To me, that is an intentional act. My question to you is very simple. Why have Democrats in this country not condemned that act? Do you know?
Look, I don't want to get into any intelligence. I think it's really dangerous for former officials to talk about intelligence, and that's why I really caution people to go to the DNI website to get the information. But let me just say, on a broader issue and different issue, is that we have too many politicians that are playing partisan politics with intelligence. It's got to stop. Intelligence is an estimate, and it's an estimate that sometimes we get right and sometimes we get wrong. We certainly have seen the intelligence community get their assessment and analyzation wrong. We've seen that with WMD. We saw that with the intelligence community warning that if we moved the embassy to Jerusalem, the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, that there would be outright war. That didn't happen. So the analytical products are designed to be estimates, and they're designed to be put in the hands of politicians, policymakers, who then use that information as part of their calculus to make decisions. That's why we have an intelligence community.
Understood. Ric Grenell, it's always a pleasure talking with you, sir. Thank you. Come back again soon.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.